If you want to become a speaker who is A, more confident, and B, more competent, then I have 2 techniques that are going to help to speed up this process for you. But before we get there, let's talk about negativity bias. Negativity bias is our tendency to register negative stimuli more readily and dwell on them longer. So as human beings, we have evolved to look out for what might go wrong far more than what might go right. This is a survival instinct, and it comes from a time when getting something wrong could mean certain death, so the stakes were a lot higher. Nowadays, in something like public speaking, it shows up in ways that are not very helpful. That might be catastrophization, where you are imagining the worst case scenario. It might be overthinking, where you just can't stop playing things in your mind. It might be negative self-talk, where you keep talking yourself down and thinking you're not going to be able to do it. Or it could just be an overwhelming sense of fear and anxiety that is making you avoid the things that you really need to go and do. Now, all of these things can massively put the brakes on both your personal and professional progression. So how do we deal with it? On one side, owning our failures, and on the other side, reflecting on our wins. To give you a bit of context about this, if you imagine a kind of psychological set of scales, right, somewhere in the back of your mind, and these scales are weighing all the different experiences that have ever happened to you, and we're talking specifically around public speaking, okay? Now, you might have had lots of different experiences where it went well. These are positive experiences, but they only weigh very lightly on this set of scales, whereas the negative experiences weigh very heavily. So one bad presentation might outweigh a year's worth of things where it's gone very well. So how do we redress this balance? Well, the first thing that we do is what I call owning our failures. So these negative memories or past experiences that have happened, if we don't process them, then they maintain that weight in our psychological baggage, right? It's almost like we filed them away, we don't want to think about it, we don't want to share it, but in doing so, we don't actually fix it. So one thing that's been really helpful for me is just being way more open about all the worst things that ever happened and all the most embarrassing moments that ever happened to me and all the things that I used to not want to tell a soul about, now I've spoken about in front of hundreds of people. And every time you do this, you lighten that load. It just becomes less heavy psychologically. When I used to have really bad anxiety and public speaking fears, I didn't want to tell anyone. And so the weight was just up here. I was just burdened with it all the time. And the more I got used to just being open and honest with people, the lighter it got over time. So here's how you put this into practical use. You can think about the most embarrassing times that have happened, the worst presentation, the cringiest moments, and try to tell it to your friends or your family or your colleagues, or even in front of an audience if you get the chance. Make fun of it. See it from a different point of view where you can look back and see the funny side. And the more you do this, the less you will be burdened by it. Now on the flip side, what about those lighter positive experiences that haven't been weighing very much and haven't been shifting the dial in terms of our set of scales? Well, we can make them heavier, to kind of stretch this metaphor out, by replaying them. Because here's the thing, right? If something goes wrong, you have a bad presentation and it's very embarrassing, what happens the next day? You're replaying it in your mind. The night after, you're still replaying it. You're constantly kind of reliving that negative experience over and over and over again. And that is what gives it so much weight. But when it goes well, when we have a big win, when you step on stage and you speak in front of loads of people and it goes great, you might think about it the next day and go, yeah, that was pretty good. But very quickly you will forget all about it and you will just leave it on the sidelines and you'll be worried about the next thing. So we're not squeezing enough of that juice out of the positive experiences. And the way you do this is simple. You go back there in your mind and you relive those moments where you were successful, where you felt confident, where you had the audience listening attentively, and where you got a big round of applause at the end. And if you haven't had any, then guess what? You can imagine them. You can visualize it. Now, maybe don't put yourself on a TED stage in front of 5,000 people if you are currently struggling with crippling nerves. Think about what would be a few levels beyond where you are right now. What would be a huge win? Would it be standing in front of the team of 20 people and giving a good presentation and getting good feedback? Whatever it is that's a few steps ahead of you, try to picture it. Really important to not only see the kind of picture, but to feel the emotions, because that's what makes it stick. So you have to try to get to a place where you can really feel like it's just gone really well, and you see in the audience's eyes, they're looking back at you, they're smiling, they're laughing, you're smiling too. The more you practice this, the better you will get at it. So when we own our failures by talking about them rather than hiding them, and when we relive our wins by replaying that positive video or thinking of things in the best case scenario rather than simply letting them be quickly forgotten, we can redress this set of scales. And rather than that one or maybe few negative experiences constantly tipping the balance to the point where you're never going to feel confident going into that situation again, we can start to tip the balance back. And as soon as those scales tip in the other direction, you will feel completely differently about the act of speaking in public, because your brain is doing a simple calculation. It's calculating all of these positive experiences, and whichever way the scales fall, it uses that to predict what will happen the next time. And as soon as those scales tip, that prediction becomes positive, and you start to go into these scenarios expecting it to go well. And that is when you can start to enjoy it. That is when you start to clock up even more positive experiences, and suddenly it becomes, a downhill slide where that mountain that felt so hard to climb up in terms of getting your confidence back, you go over the precipice and then it becomes plain sailing down the other side. So these are some thoughts that I found really helpful in my journey. They've been really helpful for my clients too. We do both of these exercises together as a group, which is even more powerful. But I hope that they will serve and help you too. Reach out if you have any questions. You can find out more about my work at projectcharisma.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and on YouTube, wherever you're seeing this. And here is to your public speaking success.